Welcome back to the second hour of Citizen Extra live on Citizen TV. Over the last 1 hour, we were talking about the IBC tender row. Thank you to everyone who sent us your SMS feedback on 22422. Let me see if I can just pick one or two SMSs before we switch gears to talk about another topic. John from Mombasa is asking, why has the IBC not involved the media in all their work? From day one, they would have had all the media to cover each and every step to avoid being in such a position. However small or legitimate or illegitimate the claims are, the Commission has a mandate to clear their position on the same. At the moment, they portray themselves like they're working under instructions, which is not healthy for this nation. Another one here, Gibson Mavenge from Narumoru says, good morning. My understanding of this tendering row is not more of Jubilee defending IBC. If Jubilee was the complainants about this tender, for sure, NASA would have been supportive of IBC. Those are some of your SMSs. Keep sending them. I'll keep going through them even as we carry on with this broadcast. But for now, let's switch gears and focus on the nurses' strike. Now, the Council of Governors yesterday demanded that the nurses return to work as they are participating in an unprotected strike. And at this moment, let me introduce my panel. John Kagushia, who was here in the previous hour, carries on. He's a governance expert and a lawyer. He'll help us look at some of the legal implications of this strike, even as it enters or continues in its 12th day. In addition, we're joined by Maurice Opetu, Secretary General, Kenya National Union of Nurses. Welcome to the program, Maurice.
Thank you.
We also have Mark Bichachi, a political analyst, who will also be able to help us get deep into this issue. Why are we now 12 days into the nurses' strike, and what needs to be done to resolve this unfortunate situation? Gentlemen, welcome to the program. And I want to start with you, Maurice, and by finding out from you, the Council of Governors, of course, yesterday talking about and demanding that all members of the union return to work. What is your response to that press release that they announced yesterday?
Okay, my response is that the strike that is ongoing for the nurses is quite legal. And I want to remind you that in Kenya, there is no strike that has been declared legal. They are always said to be illegal when the government fails to comply with her mandate. So I want
did you follow the policies that are involved in calling for a strike before you actually took one?
Yes.
Because I know there are a series of steps.
Yes, we followed all the policies. And I want you to remember that this strike is not a strike that the nurses just woke up one morning and said we are on strike. It has taken a process. Remember in December 2016, we had a strike in up to 14th of December when we signed a return to work agreement. And Governor Ongwae, who is now bringing sideshows instead of actually addressing the main issue that can help Kenyans, was one of the signatories of the Return to Work Agreement. And in that agreement, we talked about the recognition agreement that was to be signed and was signed on that day. This recognition agreement was to set ground or pace for the negotiation of a bargaining agreement. And this had time frames that was to cover up to 2nd of March 2016. And this return to work agreement had conditions or had things that the government was to comply with. If not, the nurses were now to continue with the suspended strike. And this is where we are today. The government, the Council of Governors, have failed to comply with the agreements that we signed. We deposited this agreement in court. So when they have failed to comply with the agreements we signed, what is he to do? He would have done the best thing, go to court and tell the court, look here, I've failed to comply with the agreements as I've signed with the nurses. What do you do for me? Then the court picks from there. But instead of him addressing the issues, he is now bringing sideshows. He is talking about recognition agreement, which is not a dispute in this matter. The matter we are addressing is the CBA, which is negotiated and completed beyond the time frame that was given. On 2nd of March, they also requested for 2 weeks. The nurses gave them. So where is the mistake of the nurses?
So you are placing the blame for this protracted strike on the Council of Governors solely? Is that where you see as the key issue for you as...
Very squarely. But then I can't leave out the national government. And remember the statement that was read or made by Dr. Mailu the other day, also shifting blames and saying it is because of the hard ground taken by the union and the Council of Governors, which is wrong. Dr. Mailu is squarely on this. Remember, labor standards are set by the national government. In fact, it is a national government function, and the labor ministry was not devolved. And therefore, we ask Dr. Mailu that if he was actually having the hearts of Kenyans at the plight of Kenyans at heart and the plights of the nurses at heart, I think he would have been the first one to set the good standard according to the agreement we signed with him. He was also one of the signatories. Remember, we have hostels which are under the national government. We have Madare Hostel. We have the spinal injury hostel. We have the port health. All are on strike, and he is not addressing this. Let him set the pace, because this is under the national government to set standards.
Thank you,
so that the county governments can follow suit.
Thank you much. Let me bring John in and use his expertise as a lawyer. John, you've been following this story closely. Do you feel the nurses followed the correct procedure before they called for this strike? Because I believe that is one of the issues that the Council of Governors raised in yesterday's press release.
You know, there's a terminology that Opetu has used, that the strike has been suspended. Yeah, he said that the strike has been suspended it's been a suspended strike.
Carried on from the one that was concluded in December.
Yes. And I really don't seem to identify with that, because the nurses ended their strike in December last year. And when they ended the strike, then of course they agreed to go and negotiate a CBA, which has been done generally by and large. Of course, there are issues that have come up from what they agreed. Now, the date that they were supposed to have signed this CBA is 2nd of June this year. And what the nurses have done is, when the date they were supposed to sign the negotiation agreement, the CBA, expired, they automatically proceeded on strike, which I personally have a problem with, and I think legally speaking, and that's why any court would even declare that strike unconstitutional or illegal. And of course, I don't think anyone has gone to court to have it declared illegal, but the COG, the Council of Governors, are the ones who have declared the strike illegal. Now, you see, they ought to have given a notice, like it is put in the law, especially now that they had added the other strike, other than now hiding in the fact that the other one did not end, it was suspended, because I don't think that was the case. Yeah, so what we have now here is a strike that would legally look and qualify to be illegal in actual sense. But having said that, I do not think we need to exonerate the Council of Governors from the blame as to this strike, because we saw goodwill from the nurses in December last year, when they agreed to call off their strike, and the doctors continued with their strike. And that kind of goodwill was a good gesture that I think we also needed to extend the same to them at this point. And I have not had very serious issues in terms of negotiations of the CBA, except for the issues that maybe have been raised by SRC as to the details of not being well involved in the process. Then I don't think
the wage bill, the implications of the CBA.
The implications, which of course you and me know that is a very serious thing in Kenya, and even the president alluded to the same, that 2% of Kenyans are earning, almost everything in this country, and then we need to have this relooked at. And the way of looking at that really is not by increasing the wage bill every day. And of course, everyone now is going for a pay hike. Of course, there is a political ear, and especially now at this time, I think nurses have really stood their ground because of the situation, the political situation that we have in the country.
I want to give Maurice a chance to respond to that. Before I do, let me bring in Mark Bichachi also to get his opinion. You had Maurice stating some of what they believe or what their cause is as of now. What's your response to some of those statements that he made?
One of the effects that a strike is supposed to do is to win political mileage in the minds of the public. You don't just strike for the government to hear you, but you also strike to get the sympathy and the emotions of the public. But the difficulty that they're having now is that this strike is a political hot potato. So you've got the Council of Governors on one side, you've got the national government on the other, and the public does not even know who's responsible for the strike. So the mileage they're losing is that no one knows who is to blame at the end of it all. Because to the average Kenyan, when you say the Council of Governors, we wonder, who are you talking about? So the reality is that if they're going to win any mileage as far as the public is concerned, forget about the legality of it, forget about all the other issues. In a political battle such as this, what's going to be marks for them, what's going to move the agenda forward, is being able to stick this to a particular entity and make that the protagonist in this particular endeavor. And once they do that, they'll be able to win the sympathy of the public. Right now, without an enemy, you just seem like a causeless strike. That's how it looks like, unfortunately.
Maurice, you want to respond to that?
I want to respond to the first speaker. In fact, the procedural requirements of calling on a strike. We went through all these. And then he talks of calling over strike, and we are talking about suspending a strike.
In fact, let me add something to that same point. The Council of Governors is saying that the return to work formula that was signed in December ended that strike. It is therefore unjustified for you to continue with a strike because you've used the word suspended. If you felt that your grievances have still not been addressed appropriately, then you're supposed to, under the Labor Relations Act 2017, go through that particular process. So let me pose that question to you again. Have you gone through that process?
I'm coming to that. We have gone through that. In fact, I've told you we registered the agreement in court, and anybody who had a problem with the word suspension would have gone to court to challenge it and change it. Then let me tell you, we went through the good process. Actually, even after saying suspended, on 23rd of May, we gave a notice to the employer. We served the Council of Governors with the same notice, and we served the County Public Service Board Chair with the same notice, telling them in between now the 23rd of May and 5th of June, if you don't comply and sign our negotiated, concluded and agreed CBA, we shall now proceed to our strike, which we suspended. Was that not a notice? Let us also leave alone that. The Constitution of Kenya, Article 41, sub-Article 1 to A to D, gives us the express powers and rights to bargain and call strikes and participate in strike. And I think therefore no other law that which comes in and does not comply with the Article 41 should be considered to constrain or to deny the nurses their right to participate or call a strike. So I think the Council of Governors are very wrong in this, and therefore what is happening now is a confusion. In fact, they are portraying a confusion in their house.
Speaking of confusion, I think that's what Mark meant when he said, right now you look like your strike has no, is it direction or formula? How would you respond to that? He posed that question to you when he was commenting. For
the nurses, the strike has a formula and has been followed. For the government, first, they failed, even after getting a 14-day notification, they failed to enter into any mitigative process or talk with the nurses. They were waiting for the strike to start. Who fails in that? It is the government. The nurses are really not confused in this. The government is confused. When you see the national government under CS Mailu blaming the union and the COG, is that not a confusion? You see the COG the other time blaming SRC and blaming the national government, saying that if the national government gives us the funds, we shall implement the NASES CBA. Now they are saying the NASES CBA is not there. Which CBA were they talking about by that time? Which CBA are they saying, if the national government gives us the money, we shall implement? What are they talking about? It is about confusion. Let them clean their house. There is a confusion also between the Council of Governors and the employer. Who is the the County Public Service Board. Now the executive comes from behind through back door and wants to hijack the completion of the CBA.
Because we are talking about a lot of confusion, would there be confusion within the Kenya National Union of Nurses? For example, we hear reports that nurses in Nandi County have called off the strike. They have turned their guns on union boss Seth Panyako, accusing him of engaging in an illegality. It also looks like there might be a measure of confusion in your body. We know that today there might be 2 press conferences by different sections of the Kenya National Union of Nurses. Are you united as a body in your cause?
I want to state it very clearly to you and to Kenyans that the Kenya National Union of Nurses is solid and united. And I want you not to also forget that every market has madmen and women. And therefore, when any man one day wakes up from his village and start making noise in the supermarket, that is normal. So we have people who can actually come in to derail or to maybe purport to be the speakers of the nurses. I want to tell you that the nurses are on strike solidly. The spokesman of the union is the General Secretary Seth Panyako, whom I've been holding in brief for as he was in Geneva. And you will see him talk straight on the cameras today about the strike.
Is he addressing the public?
We want to forget about the brokers. In fact, we know the brokers who are about to address the media are people who are in the payroll of COG. COG, as I told you, is taking side shows to address this matter. Maurice, they are not tackling this matter in a right way.
Maurice, let me allow John to wade into this debate. John, you've had a lot of words being bandied around. A madman in every market. Brokers now.
Yeah, I don't know at what point. I don't know at what point then the nurses strike was taken over by madmen and brokers. Maybe I don't know whether it's because of the absence of Panyako when he was abroad. Did he call the strike on an SMS or what happened? Now, I want to say this is a very serious issue of Kenyans, and Kenyans are suffering because of this. And these people, both the union and the COG, are not helping us a lot in addressing this issue, because indeed they are all engaging in side shows, and it is not good for us as a country. And you see a lot of patients, and our people are suffering out of this. And here 2 days ago you were here, and we hoped and prayed that then they can call off this strike within the first 10 days. Now this has not happened. Now what I would want to say is the confusion. Yes, a lot of confusion. But why is there confusion? It's because we are not following the due process of the law.
Who is not following the due process? The nurses,
all of them,
or everyone
are not. Like now you can hear Opatu is blaming the national government, at the same time COG, and then goes ahead to blame another body, amorphous body they are calling the Public County Service Forum. Now you see, Opatu says they actually served the Public County Service Board Forum chairman. They served him with the notice of the strike on 23rd of May. First, of course, you look at the number of days. Is that a sufficient number of days? Then you look at who was being served. Is this body legislated? Is it in law? It's nowhere in law. This is an amorphous body. This is just a club. This is a members club where people have just come together, and different county service boards are coming together, and they are saying we can coordinate this together. And I think the board, the union, is happy about that, because then they kind of are bringing the issues at a national level when they were actually devolved. Every county has its own employer, and the employer is the county government through the public service, the county's public service board at the county, not the forum. The forum is all the boards coming together, which is not legislated. Then you have a union in every county, and that is why Nandi has the right to call off their strike at the county level, because then their employer, they can engage with their employer at that level.
A local agreement of sorts.
A local agreement, and that's why also in Bomet the doctors never went on strike. But you see now what is happening is we are trying to bring this issue at the national level when indeed it's supposed to be at the county level, and that is why there's confusion. You can't lack confusion in that kind of a scenario, because even these CBAs which are being negotiated, they were better negotiated at every county level. Or else, as I have always advocated, why don't we then just review this constitution and just bring back the health,
the
national government? And of course, I know the union has pushed for that in the past.
To reduce the number of parties who are engaged in one discussion. Let me bring Mark also into this. Mark, you had asked Opetu to share the vision, the formula of the nurses. Are you now convinced judging by his remarks?
You see the problem of a technocratic answer is that the general public does not understand who you're talking about. The general public wants one villain. You understand? For Trump, it was the Mexicans. You understand?
And the wall.
Yes. So you need one issue. And like my brother has said, listen, if you're going to devolve it down to the county levels, then say that Governor so-and-so in this particular county is not meeting the needs of the nurses. If you're going to fight at the national level, make it about the government. You cannot make it about both, because then the public does not know who or what you're talking about. And that's the confusion my brother is talking about, in the sense that if you're going to have a strike, there's got to be, this is our rights, we want increased salary. The person who's not paying us is so and so. And when you talk about the body or the Council of Governors, to be honest with you, that's the most amorphous organization, because no one really votes that organization into being. You understand? We vote for our governors at the county level. So what you need to have is find a place where you can point a finger and say this is where the problem is. And you've got to be able to define the problem correctly. That being said, you know, I've just done a quick Google search, Wahiga, and you'll find it very interesting. Because of that confusion, in a political season such as this, I've found very few articles from either NASA or Jubilee speaking about the strike. Why? Because none of them feels that this is still, it's in the national play of the Kenyan politics. So, it was to offer free advice, communication advice. the nurses really need to get to a point where they're able to say, what we are fighting for is we want to be paid from 16,000 to 28,000 because we have the same level of education as another person in that level. The person who's keeping us from getting this money is Governor so-and-so or government this and this. It's got to be specific.
Okay, let me Maurice, I know you want to respond to that, and I'm told we're actually pressed for time. So let me read some SMS feedback here. Give Maurice a chance to respond, and we'll be able to carry on with the program. Maurice, this is some of the SMS feedback we are getting. Nurses asking for 50,000 shillings for uniform is too much for 1 year. Half that amount is reasonable. They do not need designer uniforms. Think about other people in the country who do not need a lot of clothes to. Okay, I'm not quite clear on that last sentence, but that is some anonymous feedback. They don't tell us their name. Kiai Musa from Nyeri is asking, are nurses employees of Council of Governors or district county government public service boards? That's the second question. Maurice, hope you've gotten that. And finally, Terence from Nairobi says, let the government stop the campaigns and address the issue of the nurses and clinical officers, because the normal citizens who will vote for them are losing lives. Even I wonder who will vote for them, and yet people who are voters are dying because of the nurses strike. Maurice, those are some of the messages from people watching the show. Yes. How do you respond to them, and of course to some of the questions raised by John and Mark?
Yes, let me respond to John and Mark first. First, I want to tell you that the nurses' agenda is very straight. I remember in 2014 we had a ruling on the same case by Judge Ndumanderi in a case that was taken to the court by Okia Mutata, and Ndumanderi directed that for the benefit of the county government, I ruled that the nurses union now should go into a forum provided by the COG to come up with a CBA and sign. When you talk about the employer of the nurses, the county public service boards are the employers. These people came and made a forum which they took to FKE and registered as an employer. And when we were starting the negotiation, we laid down the structures. And these structures were even given in the recognition agreement. Who are the employers to negotiate with you? It was identified as the County Public Service Board, who had formed a forum to register as an employer. And that registration has not been challenged by anybody. So when I say we have been negotiating with the right people from the government side, I say that with authority, because the government side gave us their people that they had given the powers and the competency as the employers to engage the nurses. And that is what the nurses have done. The COG has been doing the oversight role of coordination as another body that is bringing together the county government. So when they start changing goalposts, nurses are not happy with that.
Let me ask another question. I'm thinking about some of the people who are watching this show today, people who would want to access such facilities but are not able to, and are not able to afford to go to a private clinic or private hospital. What would you say to them, bearing in mind for them it's an issue of the nurses are not here, they're not here because they are fighting for better benefits, but at the same time on the other end people are losing lives, people remain ill. How are you addressing those would you call them moral issues as nurses?
As nurses, I want to say it is very unfortunate that Kenyans are suffering and losing lives. And this is not the intention of the nurses. The Kenyan public should come out and ask the government, both levels of the government, if Kenyans are really have to die because of putting a signature on an agreed negotiated CBA. Is that worth Kenyans to lose lives? We have agreed with the employer, and the employer said, yes, we are able to sustain this.
Let me cut you off there, because we need to cross over now to Railway Club in Nairobi County, where Kenya National Union of Nurses Chair John B is addressing a press conference, and then we'll come back and get a reaction from Maurice. Patrick Igunza is there to bring us the latest. Patrick, has the press conference started? Has the chairperson of the Kenya National Union of Nurses addressed members of the press?
Well, thank you very much indeed, Wahid Gamola. No, the press conference has not begun yet. We are still waiting for the officials of the Kenya National Union of Nurses to make their way here at the Nairobi Railways Club. But of course, what we are waiting for is a reaction by the nurses to what the governors stated yesterday, and that is nothing short of the nurses have to go back to work, failure to which they will be facing not only legal action but also administrative action. It is a decision, more of a threat that some of the nurses have said it is a threat because they have stayed put. It is the second week that the nurses have not been reporting to work, and we all know how dire the situation is in many of the public hospitals. The governors, through the chair of Labour as well as Human Resource Affairs, that is Kisii Governor James Ongwae, indicated that the nurses are taking part in a strike that is not protected, and this is because they've not honored what was return to work formula or agreement. But then again, the nurses are saying that they want all the agreements that are actually provided in the collective bargaining agreement, and that has been the bone of contention 2 weeks since the nurses decided to actually down their tools. And so this morning we will be waiting to see what they have to tell either the Council of Governors or the governors in general who are their employers, or even the national government when it comes to this entire strike. And so we'll be waiting, and we will keep you posted as soon as we get any detail from the Kenya National Union of Nurses officials. Wahige.
Thank you so much, Patrick Gunza there, reporting live from Railway Club, where any minute now officials of the Kenya National Union of Nurses expected to give a press conference, possibly reacting to another press release by the Council of Governors yesterday. The Council of Governors giving the Kenya National Union of Nurses a deadline by which to call off the strike, or they might put into place administrative or legal proceedings against the nurses. Maurice, why are you not at that press conference?
I'm aware of a press conference which is at our headquarters or our office, national office, which will kick off at 11 a.m.
So there are parallel press conferences by union officials?
I can't confirm because I know only of one press conference. In fact, you will see.
Mark, you're laughing, and why?
Because, you see, I keep trying to educate my good friend here that when anything is in the public sector, it's not about the judge's ruling, it's not about who's officially saying anything. The fact that there is a press conference happening now that you are not aware of is a communication misnomer. And what is going to happen is, whether you like it or not, some of your members will hear that message. And as the lawyer said, they are able to make decisions for themselves as union members at the county level. You need to tighten your ship. You need to tighten your ship, because one of the key chips that you come into this negotiation with is not the contracts that you have, okay? Because one of the things, I think our lawyer will correct me if I'm wrong, you know, if you take the government to court and they owe you money, there is no asset of the government you can freeze, okay? So it means you cannot force the government to act purely based on court action. You have to have the goodwill of the people, and how you win the goodwill of the people is to communicate in the most simple way possible. Forget the FKE, forget COG, forget all those terms. Just have a simple statement, please.
John, yeah, you see, I like how Mark is putting it, because then what Opato need to know is that the doctors went on strike for 100 days. And at the end of the day, even after so much suffering with Kenyans, they did not take home what they wanted. Maybe not even half of what they wanted. So, but that was after suffering of Kenyans. Now, Wahiga Mwaura, I come from Nyeri County. That is my home county. And you see, the nurses in Nyeri County last month, they spent most of their time on strike. And they were striking because of the issues of promotion and the issues of
this at the county level. At the county level.
Okay. Now I am wondering now if I mean, my mother, my father, and my brothers and sisters in Nyeri and all the people of Nyeri County did not get services from the nurses, for quite some time last month, and then the governor and the government at the county level came together and they were able to resolve the issues that were at hand, and then barely after 2 weeks, you at the national level again, you ask the same nurses of Nyeri County to proceed on another strike. It doesn't make sense. A person at Nyeri County, for example, I'm using it as an example because that's where we just had a strike the other day, then they will not understand what really is a problem. Where are we having a problem here? So now, what I think need to happen is that let the nurses kindly call off this strike. Let us have patients being treated, and in the meantime, let those issues be addressed. But also, I would also want to address the COG. And again, we said, just like the way the Public Service County Forum is an amorphous body, so is the COG, because then you cannot pin down any of those governors now in this issue, because now they are all in a group together. So just the same to them, they need to come together and discuss the issues here. Let us hear them thrashing out issues on the CBA. We need to know what exactly is the problem with the CBA. And
the way forward. I think it's only fair. We need to wrap up this topic. It's only fair that I give Maurice 1 minute to leave us with a message. We've discussed a lot in studio today, but Maurice, can you just tell us something that the viewer can go home knowing that this is the situation right now and this is the way forward? What would you say?
One thing I want to say before I say way forward is that let us not exonerate these forums or bodies. Why are they talking on behalf of all the county governments if we are not supposed to be the people addressing this issue with them? But let them come out and address this issue without going into sideshows. One thing I want to tell the public of Kenya, the government that takes care of the health services, and which is a right to all Kenyans, must come out and settle this problem by coming on the table and telling the nurses, yes, we have negotiated and agreed. We are signing this CBA on this day, and the nurses will go back to work. The simple thing.
Okay, thank you. Short to the point, and I believe those who need to hear that have had it. We take a short break now on Citizen Extra. We'll be right back. We're talking about NASA. They came out yesterday with a war on cabinet secretaries, stating that cabinet secretaries are not adhering to some of the mentions of the Election Offences Act. They've seen them on the campaign trail. They are concerned about what is happening. We'll be looking into that and so much more after this short break.